hello. It is so good to be back here with you today on this gorgeous Friday. Oh man, so today is Friday, August 25th, and I don't know where you are, but over here in Southern Oregon, it is smoky again. It feels like half the continent is on fire, or at least half of the West Coast, and whew, it is tough. My poor little doggy hasn't been on a walk in a while. I just kind of like open the door, let her go out and bring her back in really quick. So, whew, it is pretty bad right now. But, if you can see through the smoke, it's actually a beautiful day. So it's kind of like, it is a good day for me to hang out inside here with you and have a quick chat about being gluten-free. So let's see, in case you don't know who I am, my name is Miri Pizann. I am a gluten-free coach. I've been gluten-free for about a decade at this point. And like when I first started out, I was a lot like you. I didn't have a lot of resources. In fact, it was really tough for me because there wasn't anything gluten-free on the grocery store shelves. It was really hard to find good resources for gluten-free food. And oh my gosh, bread was just impossible. And so many things have changed over the years, and there are so many opportunities, but it also feels like some of the things are still really hard when you're starting out. And I don't want anybody to have to feel the way that I did when I was starting out. So I have decided to bring to you the knowledge that I have gleaned over the years. So that's what I'm doing here. It doesn't have to feel hard. It doesn't have to be hard. And you just have to know the right way to think about things, and you have to know what to look for. So weekly topic. Today we are talking about tips for, I just see Andy popped in. Hi, Andy. Good to see you here. Today, I wanted to talk about tips for avoiding cheating. And this can be a big deal. I have seen people who have had minor symptoms say, yeah, they eat gluten sometimes, but I've also seen people who can get really, really sick from it and they choose to cheat anyway. And you know what? I'm not going to judge. I'm going to say, though, that there is a better way. There is a way that you can live a happy and fulfilling life without the symptoms of getting glutened. You don't have to do that to yourself. And so that's what I want to talk with you about today. So the biggest part of this is to make the decision to not cheat, to make the decision that you are going to be gluten-free from now on. And that sounds kind of silly, like, oh yeah, I make decisions all the time, what kind of clothes I want to wear, what shampoo I'm going to buy at the grocery store, all kinds of things. But like, that's not exactly what I'm talking about. I'm talking about making an ironclad decision. This is the way my life is from this point forward, and I will do whatever it takes to be that way. Because when you make a decision like that, something inside of you kind of comes into alignment and you start finding solutions to doing that. But as long as you're like, well, I'll be gluten-free unless I see something that tastes really good. As long as you're kind of wishy-washy about that, this is just going to be an uphill battle. Once you come into alignment with your decision and you have decided, this is it, this is what I am going to do, and there is nobody, nowhere that can talk me out of it, you make it happen. And I know that you have the ability to make it happen because I know that there are things that you have decided in the past, like you have just from top of the head to the tips of your toes, you have decided like, I am all in. And once you become all in, no one can turn you back from that, So that is the kind of decision that I'm talking about. You need to be all in, no escape, doors, no secret hideys. And, it's not it's not about telling me whether or not you make the decision. You have to choose it. You have to choose it. And I'll be honest, especially at the beginning, you have to choose it every day. You have to wake up every day and say, today is a day that I am going to be completely gluten free. And after a while, that just becomes your norm. But especially in the beginning, if this is something that you've struggled with, you have to choose it every day. Choosing it once is not gonna get you there. And, sometimes you might even have to choose it every time you sit down to eat. You might have to make that decision multiple times a day. But when you like choose this, when you come into alignment, powerful things can happen. So that really is the big one. The rest of this is like all stuff that happens after you've decided that, I have decided to define myself as a gluten-free person. Um, so a tip, so now I can throw you like a couple of ideas on, once you've decided that, what can you do to make your life easier, right? So you can make a list of trigger foods or foods that you really miss, and just write it down, as many as there are. Okay. Because here's the thing, at this point, I don't think I have come across a food that I cannot find a gluten-free version of. Right? I mean, like, even stuff that I thought, oh no, there's no way. I mean, the one exception that I'm going to throw out there is I have a vegan friend who tells me that she eats flavored seitan, or flavored gluten out of a can. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I can't help you with that one. But like, all of the rest of the stuff out there, the bread, the croissants, the pasta, there are gluten-free versions that exist. So what you need to do is identify anything that could tempt you to cheat and just write it down on a list. Okay. And then what you do is you go and you find alternatives for each one. And you know what? They exist, all of it. Is it easy? Maybe, maybe not. It depends on your area and it depends on your skills, but it exists and it's available. And I don't know about you, but for me, just knowing that it exists out there, that I could get this if I really wanted it, that kind of helped temper the the cravings. So I want you to know that anything that you write down, I mean, like, I have a friend who likes to go to Disneyland and get the special treats that they sell at Disneyland. And what I want her to know is that those treats exist in gluten-free form. They may or may not exist at Disneyland, which I understand is part of the joy of going, but you can bring something with you that won't make you sick, right? You can acquire it, you can make it yourself. There are ways to do with this. And if you need like the Mickey Mouse shape on it, grab a bag of frosting and draw Mickey Mouse on it before you leave to go to Disneyland. That's what I'm talking about, right? Like, another one is going to amusement parks or fairs, like the county fair, and not being able to get maybe a funnel cake or a deep fried Twinkie or whatever. And it's like, gluten-free funnel cake exists. There are recipes out there for that. Will you find it at the fair? Maybe, maybe not. But if you know that if you really wanted it, you could still have it, maybe you don't need to get this one right now because you can get the one at home that you make or that a friend makes for you or however you want it to work. So just know that gluten-free alternatives exist. Okay. So, and you can figure out, like, once you know what it is that you want, you can start finding it elsewhere, finding a different brand, finding a different a bakery that makes this, or even if it's not in the town that you live in, maybe they will ship to you. Or maybe if it's something that you really truly love, you might be able to figure out how to make it for yourself. The options exist. There's no need to make yourself sick because the options exist. Okay. And the other thing that I found really useful in my gluten free adventure is retraining my brain to not notice all of the places that offer food I can't eat. And what I mean by that is that advertising, like especially in the US, but I'm going to guess that pretty much anywhere, there's advertising out there, there's marketing out there that is specifically designed to draw your eye. Come to our restaurant, check out our booth, check out our pop-up, whatever, right? And it's constantly pulling your eye. And because it's never been a problem for us, like I'm a foodie, I love trying new foods. So I had my eyes wide open. I was constantly looking for different restaurants and new foods to try and new everything. And when this happened, I literally had to retrain my brain, and this is totally possible. You retrain your brain so that that marketing doesn't affect you. I don't even notice these restaurants anymore unless like I might walk into one and be like, "Hey, do you have gluten-free food?" And then all of a sudden my black and white map pings to color if they say, "Yes, we do." And that becomes a possibility. And I will notice it and see it and remember it. And it sounds kind of weird, but you can actually train your brain to do this. This is not like a weird thing. This is a skill that you can learn. Okay. And once you stop seeing the stuff that you can't eat, once your brain knows to filter that out and not look at it, this is not something that you want in your life, you don't get tempted as much. You don't feel that urge to go there because you know that that's not something that you can eat anyway. So, those are my tips for avoiding cheating. If you have any questions, or if you have another tip that you think would be really useful, please do drop it in the comments. I absolutely want to hear it. I am always looking to expand my knowledge base. So that's what I've got for that. So I want to move into my answer Q&A section. And I don't see any questions in the comments at this time. So that's great. So I'm just going to pull out one that was asked of me earlier. Alicia asked me about how to find gluten-free snacks. And boy, is that a broad question. I mean, like if you've ever been on a weight loss diet, there's the usual suspects, and most of those are going to be naturally gluten-free. Veggie sticks, hard cooked eggs, hummus, nuts, those kind of things. You might need to double check the ingredients because anything that has more than one ingredient in it has potential for cross contact or for a gluten ingredient to sneak in there. But for the most part, those ones are going to be safe. And there is a website called nuts.com because there are certain nut companies that do have gluten in their seasoning. So but if you get raw, unseasoned nuts, you should be fine with that. You can roast them yourself. But I suspect that Alicia was actually asking about like chips and things like that. So I wanted to share a couple of brands that I personally truly enjoy. Um, for chips like Pringles, you can't have Pringles. Gluten is in Pringles, right? So just one, and you can't one pop and you can't stop, or whatever that is. Like, don't start. You're going to make yourself sick. But there is a company called the Good Crisp Company. I have started seeing them popping up in health food stores. I'm fairly certain I've actually seen them over at Target although I'm not sure. And again, it's going to depend on what area of the country you're in. But the Good Crisp company was actually made by a dad for his kid who has celiac, and his kid missed Pringles. So like, there you go. This is great. And Good Crisp is always gluten free. And for people like me who are also dairy free, as long as you avoid the obvious ones like sour cream and onion, sour cream is dairy. But yeah, you can have them. A lot of them are dairy free also, so you can have those. Another brand for potato chips that I really like is Kettle Chips. Uh, as far as I can remember, all of their stuff is gluten free. Uh, but read your labels, and that's the other thing too, is that availability varies throughout the country, and ingredients can vary throughout the country. Like, for example, Girl Scout cookies, there's actually two different companies that make Girl Scout com- Girl Scout cookies. And so depending on what region, which bakery your Girl Scout troop interacts with, that's going to affect which cookies you have access to. So it's kind of the same thing. Like, regions will have their own factories, and depending on whether or not the food manufacturer is making it themselves or sending it out someplace, can affect whether or not the food has gluten in the ingredients. So even though I'm telling you this, like, I still want you to continue reading your labels, but this is something that you can go look for, right? So kettle chips, I thoroughly enjoy those. Another one is Skinny Pop. Uh, that one I have had many times. A lot of popcorn is in general gluten free. I have to be careful because I'm also dairy free, and so like I have to make sure that it doesn't have cheese or butter on it, yada yada. But a lot of times popcorn is gluten free, and you should be good with that. There's also a company called Lesser Evil that makes a lot of popcorn that is both gluten free, and many of their stuff is also dairy free, but you have to read the ingredients. For pretzels, I love Snyder's. I know that Udi's makes them, and their stuff I was able to find all over the place, but Snyder's pretzels, I know that they have gluten-free pretzels. You do have to look specifically for the gluten-free ones. And I'm going to say check your local health food stores, which I know is something that I say a lot. And the reason is because they are such a good resource for alternative diets, such as being such as being gluten-free. So go see what you can find in your local health food store. And if you're in a big city, you've got options such as Sprouts and Whole Foods, but even the mom and pop shops are going to have stuff that maybe you can't find anywhere else. And as always, go check out your local gluten-free bakery, which may or may not be close to you depending on where you live. I acknowledge that. But keep your eyes peeled, because what my experience is that new stuff is popping up all the time. And so don't close yourself off to the experience just because it's never been there before. You don't know when somebody's going to have the idea that, like, darn it, I make really good gluten-free cupcakes and I think the world should know about it, and they open up a bakery in your neighborhood. You just never know. So Alicia, I hope that helps you with your gluten-free snacks. Um, and, if any of you have questions, or I would love to hear what your favorite gluten-free snack is. So please do pop it into the comments if you have one that you think everybody should know about. Okay. And that, I think, is everything that I have for today. So enjoy your Friday. Have a fabulous weekend. And I will see you again same time next, or I'm not sure about the time. It might be a little squirrely for a little bit, but definitely I will see you next Friday. All right, so take care everybody, and I will see you again real soon.